Guys, I just got done watching The Walking Dead episode, The Walking Dead Dead City episode 1. I almost said The Walking Dead episode 1. That was a long time ago. Um, yeah, so The Walking Dead is back with the first of its spin-off, post Walking Dead, because obviously the first spin-off was Fear. And I just have some thoughts, and I want to just give my thoughts on it. I'm a massive, Walking Dead fan. I love The Walking Dead. I know a lot of people over the years just kind of just gave up on the show and just stopped watching. I was a part of that club around season 8. I had originally just stopped watching the show, and then I had heard, Rick is gone. And I'm like, what the fuck I want to go back for? No Rick? How do you have The Walking Dead without Rick? And shit like that. And I eventually decided to go back to season 8, and instead of, I went back to season 8, started season 9, and then I decided, I rewatched the whole show from the very beginning, from season 1, and I wrote that all the way till the end, to season 11. So I did finish The Walking Dead. And while, yeah, The Walking Dead sure didn't end at its best peak, The Walking Dead peak of the first 6 seasons that people loved, I still quite enjoyed it. Still quite enjoyed that last season. Not the best season, of course, but I still quite enjoyed it. And yeah, my biggest problem with The Walking Dead ending was that it didn't feel like it was over. Like, it didn't feel like the ending of The Walking Dead. Like, The Walking Dead ran for 11 seasons for 11, 12 years, 13 years, whatever the fuck it was. And, The Walking Dead ending should have been like this monumental ending to such a legacy of a show. But because before the show even ended, we knew the show wasn't over, because even though The Walking Dead was ending, they had announced a Maggie and Negan spin-off. They had announced a Daryl Carol spin-off, which now is just Daryl. They had announced, now they announced a Rick Michonne spin-off. And we have shows like Tales of the Walking Dead. We had The Walking Dead World Beyond. We have Fear the Walking Dead still going, which is in its last season. So it's like, yeah, The Walking Dead was ending. Sorry. The Walking Dead was ending, but not really. And that kind of affected the ending of the show, to me, at least personally. Because it's like, it wasn't as sad or heartbreaking when you watch a show and the show's over and you know there's no more to come. That's what makes a show ending heartbreaking. In a good way, like, man, I've watched this show for so long. I just recently finished watching The Flash after 9 years. So, like, when you finish watching a show, it hits you here, like, man, if it's a show you followed for years. But with The Walking Dead ending, it was like, yeah, there's more to come. So it wasn't sad or anything. So the first Walking Dead spin-off, I kind of rambled on about The Walking Dead there. The first Walking Dead spin-off is The Walking Dead Dead City with Maggie and Negan, which is interesting because, like I said, this show was announced before the show even ended. Like, season 11 had been, I think, renewed, and they already announced the show, which also gave the impression of, like, Maggie and Negan ain't dying. And that was a big what the fuck, right? Of all the characters Maggie could have been paired up with Negan. So I watched the first episode, and I liked it. I liked and enjoyed that first episode. I actually thought it was pretty good. Uh, so the big thing is, like, Negan and Maggie. Obviously, everybody knows their history, their chemistry, how they feel about each other, because of what Negan did to Glenn and all that. So one of the best things about The Walking Dead post Rick leaving the show, when Lauren came back, because she had also left the show at one point, was the Maggie and Negan dynamic of Maggie hating Negan, but Negan had become part of the group with Daryl and everybody. So that dynamic carried that season, 10 and 11, so much, and it was so good to see them kind of go at it and all that, because even though Negan was the villain, and we saw Negan as the villain because he killed Glenn at the time, Negan ended up making a lot of valid points. And so that was an interesting dynamic. So, but the thing was that The Walking Dead season 11 kind of had it that their issues were kind of fixed. She didn't forgive him, but she was still grateful that he had saved her son. So that was something. So they kind of buried the hatchet. But yeah, when you watch the show, they're back to the jabs. More Maggie than Negan, but they're like back to the jabs and all that. So in a way, that was a little weird. It's good because it still makes for some good television, but it's still weird that they're having these jabs and arguments. When if you watch The Walking Dead season 11, they kind of buried that behind them. But I guess at the same time, I guess you can never really forgive somebody for killing your husband. So I guess maybe that's why they're back to it. But it is weird, and it's funny because my favorite scene, at least in this first episode, they're having an argument. That Negan tells them, like, since we hooked up here, you have been taking these stabs and jabs at me and all that for stuff that I thought we put behind us and whatnot. And he makes a very valid point because you still see me as the bad guy, but the reality is there are no bad guys, or better yet, everybody's a bad guy. Something along the lines of that, which I thought was a perfect scene and a great point because he even tells Maggie, "How many husbands and fathers have you killed?" And it's true. He made a really valid point with that. Yeah, he killed Glenn, Maggie's husband, and we hate him for it. But over the years, how many people have we seen Rick killed and Maggie and all them? Some of them were fathers. Some of them were husbands and wives. Some of them were, families. So yeah, it was a really valid point. See, and that was good writing in that scene, and it was really good scene. I really quite enjoyed that scene. I really quite enjoyed the first episode. There was a few, like, I feel like the New York aspect of it, the city, gives the show a different vibe, a different feel than what we're used to, and we needed that. And yeah, so that was a good scene. There was a scene where they're in the city, they're walking in the streets of New York, and you have walkers falling from not the sky, but from like the roofs and of the buildings and all that. And Negan makes a joke about it, about how it's raining walkers or whatever. Which that's one of the show's highlight is more Negan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan is awesome, funny. He's great. He's great as a villain and a good guy. I say that as somebody who Negan is one of my favorite characters. So maybe if you don't like Negan, maybe you'll go like, oh, fuck this show. But I really like Negan, and I really, really do like him. So yeah, like, he's funny, like always. So like that was a cool scene, walkers just falling into the city. When they get to the city and there's walkers all over the water, like that was a cool scene. The only aspect of the show, again, this is only the first episode, that I'm not too crazy about is the whole Marshall thing. Like, they're the law, and they're looking for Negan because he committed crimes. They said what his crime was, and like that's like the one aspect that I didn't like in this first episode. It could come around. This only the first episode. Episode 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 can make it better. But the idea of law enforcement and like this like government type of thing in this world, in this universe, I don't like it. I don't really. So it's again, just my opinion. If you think that was cool, you liked it, whatever, go for it. This is just my thoughts, my review, my opinion. Yeah, that was like the one aspect of this first episode. I was like, whatever. So yeah, if you're wondering, like, oh, why is Maggie and Negan even together? Maggie recruits Negan to get her son back, because her son was taken from her by a villain. What the hell is his name? Crochet? What? I don't even remember. Croat, I think his name was Croat. Because I guess it's a villain. The villain of this show, I guess, the season, whether we get more season or not, I don't know, of this series, it's somebody who Negan used to know from his days as, Savior Negan, I guess. So she needs his help to try to get him, because I guess Maggie's hoping that Negan could kind of persuade him or something to getting Herschel back. I guess that's the idea. So yeah, the plot itself, yeah, Maggie's working with the last person she would want help from, but at the same time, he is the best person to get help from. Because if you want somebody in your team, it is Negan. So yeah, so that's why they paired up in New York. Like I said, the city vibe of New York gives the show a different feel, and yeah, it's just, even though it's kind of inconsistent with the way season 11 kind of, they kind of put the whole hatchet behind them. What happened with Glenn? At least it feels inconsistent to me. But at the same time, I guess it is always fun to see them going back and forth on it. There was a really cool scene in it, um, in which Maggie had a nightmare remembering when Negan killed Glenn, which also kind of helps as to why she can never truly forgive him or put it behind her, because she still remembers. Like, that scene shows you that she still has dreams and nightmares about this whole situation of what he did. So yeah, that was a cool scene. Uh, let me see what else. That was a few things in there I just really liked. Um, Man, what else was there? That Croak, the guy who he shows up in the last few minutes of the show, of the episode. He seemed interesting. I wanted to play out a little bit more, but at least as the first impressions go, I quite like him. Again, first impressions. He could be a horrible villain for all I know. Excuse me. But at least as first impressions, he had a scene with Herschel, and somebody tries to run away, and he stops, and the way he stops him is like, oh man, this guy looks like he's a real sick bastard, doesn't he? Um. So yeah, the villain seems like it might be interesting. I like the fact that it's tied up to Negan's past. Like I said, my only real complaint here is so far as this whole Marshall thing. That was a really disgusting scene. See, I can watch walkers all day. I can watch zombies tear up people in half, into pieces, into whatever. But there was a scene where they're hiding from walkers, and there's a bunch of fucking cockroaches, and that shit was like, oh, ew, no, get the shit off me, type of thing. Like, that's the type of shit that disgusts me. I can watch a walker tear you apart. Don't put fucking cockroaches in hairs, in their faces, just walking around. Yeah, it was definitely New York. I was like, oh, that is just this fucking disgusting. So yeah, yeah. I forgot to touch on this part too. Besides the whole cockroaches thing, there was a walker who was like about to bite somebody, and he had like a fucking like rat in his mouth, like a little mouse or whatever, a mouse or rat. And as the walker's going, you see the fucking rat coming out, and it was so fucking disgusting. That I was like, that is shit is so nasty, but that was actually kind of cool and creative. I don't see, at least as far as first episodes go, first impressions, first thoughts. I probably look tired. I'm tired. It's like 3 in the morning. Um, I quite enjoyed it. I quite liked it. I'm quite excited to see next week's episode. I'm quite excited to see how it all resolves, and whether it'll resolve in this season, whether they'll get Herschel in the season, or is this something that'll drag out to like a second season type of thing. I think this is just a one season thing so far. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends on a cliffhanger and they don't get Herschel back at the same time. Like, it depends how long they want the show to go, because like I said, there's so many other shows coming. There's a Daryl one. There's a Rick Michonne one coming. So it'll be interesting to see. Are any of these shows gonna be multi season shows, or are these all gonna be a one season and done type of thing? So, I feel like the Rick Michonne one, I haven't watched it yet, but I feel like a one and done for all these years of waiting to see what happened to Rick would be a disservice to whatever story they're gonna tell. So yeah, as far as Dead City goes, first episode, I feel like it was pretty solid. I've quite enjoyed that. Just my opinion. Maybe you think it was a piece of shit, and if you do, tell me why do you think it was a piece of shit. But it honestly stars two of the Walking Dead's best characters in Maggie and Negan. Their relationship still makes for a fun viewing experience and watch. The villain seems like he's gonna be interesting. I did not enjoy the Marshall aspect of it. Like, that could change. There is this girl that doesn't talk. She's mute. How big of a presence she'll have in the show remains to be seen. She was very briefly in this episode, and she seems to have gone away. But based on the trailers, I feel like she'll be back and to play in some way. So I can't really say anything on that. Whether why that was done, maybe it's to give Negan a Joel Ellie type of thing, him and the little girl, whatever. Maybe that's why they did that. Maybe that's the inspiration. Because that's the thing. The Walking Dead Dead City now lives in a world of post The Last of Us TV show, which everybody loves, including myself. So it'll be interesting to see where it all goes. So, as like I said, as far as the first episode goes, I quite liked it, quite enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty solid. This has been my thoughts, review of The Last of Us, Dead City, episode 1, Old Acquaintances, I think is what the episode was called. Yeah, Brian Redgrave, out.